There is one morning I return to more often than any other, although I couldn't tell you the exact date. It exists somewhere in the long summers of the 1970s, when the days seemed too generous to ever end and childhood still measured time in adventures rather than hours. I wake naturally not because an alarm has rung, but because the sunlight has found its way through the thin curtains, filling the bedroom with a soft golden glow. Before I even open my eyes, I can hear birds singing somewhere beyond the window, and the faint sound of a lawnmower beginning its slow journey across a nearby garden. For a few quiet moments, I simply lie there. No school and homework. No responsibilities waiting beyond the bedroom door. The whole day stretches ahead like an empty page, and somehow I already know it will be filled. Not with anything extraordinary, perhaps, but with the kind of ordinary moments that only later reveal themselves to have been extraordinary all along. I couldn't have known then that memory is rarely interested in the grand occasions. It has a habit of quietly preserving the light through a curtain, the smell of warm summer air drifting through an open window, or the feeling that an entire world is waiting just outside your front door. Looking back now, I realize I wasn't simply waking into another day. I was waking into a version of myself I would spend the rest of my life trying to remember. It never occurred to us that the world was small. In fact, it felt impossibly large. The journey to the local park seemed like an expedition, the walk to the newsagent felt like a proper adventure, and every unfamiliar path hinted at something waiting to be discovered. There were no phones to tell us where everyone was. You simply stepped outside, climbed onto your bike, and trusted that sooner or later you'd find your friends, or perhaps they'd find you. Looking back, it seems remarkable how little we needed. A football, a handful of comics, a fishing net, or nothing more than a stick found beneath a tree could occupy an entire afternoon. We drank from the spring on the hill because it was there, breathed in the smell of freshly cut grass without ever noticing we were creating a memory, and stayed outdoors until the evening light slowly began to fade. What I remember most isn't what we did. It's how the world felt while we were doing it. Every corner promised a story, every empty field became another country, and every ordinary day carried the quiet expectation that something wonderful might happen before it was over. Children don't need extraordinary places to experience wonder. They carry it with them, seeing possibility where adults have long since learned to see only familiarity. Childhood wasn't built from extraordinary moments. It was built from rituals repeated so often that they became invisible while we were living them. Saturday mornings began with the excitement of favorite television programs, interrupted only by the anticipation of heading to the newsagent with a few precious coins in your pocket. There was always the hope that this week's comic might be even better than the last, that a new adventure waited just beneath its colorful cover. On other weekends, there might be a trip to the local cinema, where the lights dimmed and, for the next 2 hours, the ordinary world quietly disappeared. Heroes didn't simply entertain us, they expanded our imagination, making the impossible feel strangely within reach. What made those rituals special wasn't really the television, the comics, or the films. It was the waiting. In a world without instant access, anticipation became part of the experience. We lived between moments instead of rushing through them. Looking back now, I wonder if that waiting gave memories room to breathe, allowing ordinary Saturdays to settle gently into the heart until they became something far greater than the sum of their parts. This is where nostalgia quietly tricks us. It whispers that happiness is waiting inside an old photograph, a favorite song, or a television program we haven't watched for 40 years. It convinces us that if we could only stand in the right place, hear the right music, or hold the right object, the feeling would return exactly as it once was. So we try. We watch the old films. We buy the comics we loved as children. We revisit the streets where we grew up. For a moment, something stirs, and a smile appears almost without thinking. A forgotten memory drifts gently back into view, then, just as quickly, the feeling slips away again. It's a strange kind of disappointment because nothing is actually wrong. The film is still wonderful. The music still sounds exactly the same. The park hasn't forgotten us. The problem is that we've been searching in the wrong place. Those things were never carrying the magic, they were simply standing beside us while the magic happened. The wonder we remember didn't belong to the bicycle, the comic, or the cinema. It belonged to the curious child experiencing them for the very first time. Perhaps nostalgia isn't really a longing for yesterday at all. Perhaps it's a longing to see the world once more through the eyes we no longer possess. If the places haven't changed, and the songs haven't changed, and the films haven't changed, then perhaps the thing we've really been searching for is ourselves. Not the person we are today, the person we used to be. The child who believed that every birthday felt impossibly far away, who thought 6 weeks of summer could last forever, who woke each morning expecting the day to surprise them. Children don't just see the world differently, they experience it differently. Everything is new. And every conversation introduces someone they've never met. Every journey leads somewhere they've never been. Every film opens a world they've never imagined. The future isn't something to worry about, it's something to be excited by. Somewhere along the way, without ever deciding to, we slowly exchange wonder for familiarity. We stop looking because we believe we've already seen it all. We stop noticing because our minds become experts at filtering out the ordinary. Yet the extraordinary has been hiding inside the ordinary all along. The child we miss wasn't happier because life was easier. The child we miss was happier because they hadn't yet stopped being amazed. Perhaps that's the greatest loss we mistake for nostalgia. Not our youths, but our sense of wonder.